Welcome, everyone, to our 36th webinar. We've been doing them every month for 3 years as of tonight, and this is feeling to me like a milestone because when I thought about organizing this webinar around the theme, which I originally called Caring for Oneself, and then after I worked with it for a little while, I changed it to Caring for Myself. And I'm going to invite you just to say to yourself, caring for oneself or yourself, you can say it either way, and then say, caring for myself. And I hope you notice some difference in flavor of those two things. The former, caring for oneself or caring for yourself, creates a bit of distance between you and the caring. And when you say caring for myself, you are self-referral. You're talking about I care for myself. And it's not just taking care of in the physiological sense, eating and getting enough sleep and getting exercise and having fun and doing good work. It's about attending to what you need on the deepest level of your existence, the deepest level of your needs, and recognizing those needs and having the tools to take care of yourself, to be able to say, I care for myself. Now, caring for yourself, there's obviously the common regard of that, which is that I like myself. I care for myself in that sense. I have positive feelings for myself. And that's very valuable and very important because if we have a lot of negative feelings for ourselves, then it creates an energy that is very draining to our physiology and can ultimately produce a great deal of unhappiness and diseases, physical problems in the body. And indeed, many people believe, and I have a vast book, a very big, thick book, it's about that thick, 8.5 by 11, which is simply a list of diseases and the emotional qualities and personality characteristics that give rise to those diseases. And many of them are listed in very specific terms, which finger, left eye or right eye kind of things, which is really quite remarkable. The person who developed the reference, I thought, had a great deal of insight. And every once in a while, I'll pull the book out when someone comes in with a specific physical problem, and I'll ask them to read the entry for that and see if any of it resonates with them, if they pick up on something, and then they can say yes, and then we can go to work on it with the kind of tools that I'm going to show you tonight and give you some introduction to, so that you're able to care for yourself, which you'd say care for myself. So I'm going to try to speak in the first person tonight, but as I do that, I want you to realize that while I am describing myself, of course, I'm also hopefully putting a frame of reference in your mind that turns you to awareness of your own characteristics of your mind and your emotions and your physical body in terms of what it's doing, and your sense of your needs, those deepest needs that underlie even the subtlest aspects of your feeling, so that you can integrate all of the energies that underlie those feelings and needs and arrive at a state where you're truly, truly self-referral. And that means that you're guided by the impulses of nature and you're doing what nature requires of you, even if sometimes that is not a very happy circumstance. And one of the things about caring for myself is that I find, I'm trying to speak in the first person, but I want you to hear that in your own first person, that I find that in caring for myself, I'm in tune with what nature is trying to present to me, whether that be a challenge or whether that be something that is much more delightful, and recognize that it's something I'm going to go through, I'm going to learn from, and I'm going to gain mastery of everything that's taking place within me. And so you can say that taking place of everything that's within me. You can say that to yourself. And so you find that within yourself, you have the strength and the power to actually deal with everything that comes up and deal with all possibilities by using all possibilities, by using the incredible spontaneity of nature, the naturalness with which nature allows us to deal with situations. Most of the time, our suffering occurs for just a very few reasons. Obviously, everybody has specific reasons, but the general type of thing that's going on in us is that we're telling ourselves, this is number one, and it's extremely common, we're telling ourselves a story about our life that is not a happy story. We're explaining to ourselves that we are unhappy in some way. And that unhappiness can take many forms. We can feel hurt, of course, and we may feel angry in response to that feeling hurt. Or we may feel lonely or isolated. We may feel very sad, and that's a very common reaction. And many times when people say are feeling depressed, what we would call depressed, they may not even be aware of why they're feeling depressed. And I often feel when I hear stories that people, they've been working with some kind of counselor or psychologist or psychiatrist, that the therapist that's involved has not really asked them, what is it that you're really unhappy about? And that's a question you have to ask repeatedly. You get an answer and then you go deeper. Well, what is it about that that's actually really bugging you? And if you can do this to yourself, of course. You don't need a therapist to do it, as long as you're willing to be honest with yourself and just keep letting different layers, deeper and deeper layers. It's like peeling off the layers of an onion. I like to use that analogy. You peel off one layer and you think, things are so much better. And then you discover that there's another layer and you peel that layer off. And then you discover there's another layer and you keep working your way down till you get into the very core of what it is about your life, about your circumstances, the very core of what's bugging you, what's making you unhappy, what's making you angry or frustrated or sad, whatever the things are that are going on. You just keep digging in. You just keep asking that question. What is it about this situation that actually bugs me? Now, it's important to phrase the question in that way rather than say, why am I unhappy? Because if you say, why am I unhappy? What happens is your brain starts telling you the story of your unhappiness. I'm unhappy because I can't make any money, or somebody swindled me, or there was a downturn in the market, or I ate the wrong food and I got sick, or I had an accident, or you can come up with specific reasons why you're unhappy. And I'm using the word unhappy here to cover all the different kinds of feelings that basically we say are negative feelings, feelings that express how unhappy we are. So I'll just use the word unhappy. So I'm feeling unhappy about a situation. And if I ask, why am I feeling unhappy? I tell myself a story about it. And I keep telling myself that story. And most people, if you're anything like, and I'm going to just say me again, if you're anything like me, what happens is you keep telling yourself the story. I can remember meeting people over a period of literally years, not people I was working with, obviously, because they stopped telling themselves their story, because I keep saying, you're telling yourself that story again. But this was obviously somebody not working with me. And I happened to overhear a conversation. And I was sitting with somebody and I said to them, the next thing they're going to say is this. Sure enough, they did. And I knew what they were going to say because I had heard their story several times. And so I was prepared, so to speak. I knew what their script was. They kept telling themselves the story. And it's one of the characteristics of people who we say are mentally ill, but actually everybody does it. And it's very easy to drop into that mode. I'm telling myself this story. So that's one of the reasons why people stay unhappy and don't progress, don't deal effectively with their situation, because it just keeps them on one level of the problem. It doesn't let them dive deeper into the nature of what's going on in their life. And so asking that question, what is it about this situation that makes me unhappy? What's bugging me here? And you keep asking that question, you get deeper and deeper into the core of the thing so that you really have a chance to clear out the energy that's underlying your situation and arrive at a state. Most of the people on the webinar know the term bliss consciousness. You arrive at a state of pure consciousness, pure being, where you're just a witness to what's going on and you don't have overwhelming feelings about it. You do have some feelings about it because there is a vibration in there, but you don't have the reactive feelings that come from telling yourself the story. You're just a witness to the experience. Oh, that's not a happy situation. What am I supposed to take away from this situation? How am I supposed to deal with this situation? And then there are many, many tools that can be used to respond to that kind of thing. Let me start talking a little bit about the tools, and then I'll talk about some of the other things that we do to ourselves that beat us up. Well, one of the things since I said it, I'll just go ahead and say that. One of the things that we do is we blame ourselves, or we blame other people, or we blame God, we blame circumstances for our problem, for our unhappiness. Now, think about that. That seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Supposing that you're living in a country that's ravaged by war. A lot of people in the world are actually in that situation today, in many, many parts of the world. And you could easily say, well, I don't know where my next meal is coming from. My house has been destroyed. My relatives have been killed. I have lots of reasons to be unhappy. And so it's easy to be blaming and complaining about your situation, which is, again, a bit like telling a story, but it's that you have specific things that you can actually say that are actually real, they're true. And it's easy to fall into that. And it's very hard to say that I can to actually find within yourself that I can witness that and find the power within me, find the energy within me to keep trying, to keep going on, to keep trying to improve my situation, even when objectively it may seem completely hopeless. Hopelessness is a feeling. It's not an actual state. The process that we go through, the process that you might say God has delivered to us, the challenge can be overwhelming, or at least appear overwhelming. But if it's like facing a huge wave and you're in the ocean and this wave is coming and is coming towards you and it's about to come crashing down on you. Well, everybody who really knows how to swim in the ocean knows you dive under the wave. You simply dive into the base of it and the wave rides past you and you just kind of float inside the wave for a little bit and then the wave is gone and you float back up to the surface. And in most cases, you can survive even a very, very large wave. And I've even seen people there's some actual videos of people in a tsunami kind of wave, 30-foot high wave comes, in towards the beach. And the people that are in the water seem to all know you just dive into the base of the wave. I don't know whether any of them actually survived it, but they did the right thing. They did the right thing. So the point is, ultimately, if you believe some of the ancient philosophies of Bhagavad Gita and other things, is you take it as it comes. You do what you can, and you maintain that inner balance. You're always seeking that inner balance. And just, what is it about this that I, need to learn? What is it about this that I can do? What can I do in this situation to do the best that I can? It means not being attached to success or failure, not being concerned about whether or not you succeed. It's what you do, it's how you try. Can you maintain your balance as you're going through that process so that you feel that equanimity? So, how do you get there? Well, there's a whole bunch of ways to do that. One of the really nice ways to do that is called emotional freedom technique. And some people call it tapping. And you can tap, and some people use top of the head things, and they'll do what they call a karate chop like that. But the way I learned it from Robert Smith, is known as faster EFT, not because you tap faster, but because it works faster. The reason it works faster, there's a lot of background behind this, which we don't need to actually cover, but he has a great theoretical basis for that. But the reason it works faster is essentially that the things that you say, the affirmations that you use, allow you to naturally get deeper and deeper into what it is that's bugging you and clear that up. So you might start out by saying, even though I'm feeling terribly unhappy about this situation, and I spend a lot of time, wiping tears from my eyes, I'm basically doing okay. I know how to take care of myself. I deeply love and respect myself. And then you finish the technique that he has, which I can teach you in 1 to maybe 3 sessions, depending on how quick you are at picking it up. And then you check in and see how strong that feeling is. And it's easy to you just use a scale like 0 to 10. 0, it doesn't exist. 10, it's just couldn't possibly be worse. And usually what happens, you'll say, well, it's about a 5. And then part of the technique is check in and make that really strong, really tune into that feeling that is in there. Oh my, I'm heartbroken. Okay, I'm heartbroken. Even though I'm heartbroken and this situation looks utterly hopeless, I've been through it many times. I know how to come out at the other end. I deeply love and respect myself. I like that phrase at the end. It's a good one. And then you finish the technique up. And again, you reassess how strong is that feeling. And maybe it's down to a 3. And you get down to a low level and you can just kind of go, I release and let it go. I don't need this anymore. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. I deeply love and respect myself. I release and let it go. And then you finish up. How strong is the feeling? Maybe it's a 1. I don't need this anymore. I'm doing just fine. I take care of myself. I'm very strong. I'm established in my power. Okay. So you make up phrases like that. And those phrases are very important that they come from you. I can help people with this and often come up with wonderful phrases, of course, because I have a lot of experience with it. But you can do this for yourself. You just let it come out. Don't write yourself a script. One of the problems with the traditional emotional freedom technique called EFT, one of the problems with it is that it works on scripts, and you just keep going through the script and you say it over and over and over again, but you don't get that deep connection. The thing about the way I was doing it, the faster EFT, is that you allow yourself to find that deep connection, because the process that's going on is basically asking that question, even though you don't consciously ask the question, but it's asking that question, what is it about this situation that's bugging me? And as long as you can allow yourself to experience that far more subtle levels really, as they unfold, then you just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's just amazing how fast this works. I've had quite a lot of experience with it. And when I work on myself, which I do quite a lot, actually, something will come up, some situation, maybe it's a difficulty with someone. And, I can go, even though I'm having difficulty with this person and they're really bugging me, I know that, they're a good person and I'm a good person. Everything's going to be okay. All I have to do is pay attention to what's bugging them. Finish up the technique, see how strong it is. It's gone. Wow, that was quick. So you check. Well, let me see if I can bring it back. I'll try to recreate that. I remember that argument I had with that person yesterday, and I was really pretty upset, and they were pretty upset. We were really getting kind of hot under the collar, and I mean, it's gone. I just don't have the feeling anymore. I can remember the event. It's now a fact. I remember that it happened, and I remember we were upset with each other and walked away in a huff, and now it's okay. And I don't know where they're at today, but maybe if we encounter each other, I'll say hello and maybe I even apologize for getting a little hot under the collar. And, who knows? They might respond the same way, or they might not. But that would then be their situation to deal with, but it's not mine. Now, speaking of it's their situation, there is a way to work with a situation, any situation that you regard as not actually me. And it's called Ho'oponopono. It's from Hawaii, and it's a traditional technique. It was widely practiced long ago, but there are still people who practice it and teach it. And it's a very beautiful technique. And what I'm leading up to here and talking about Ho'oponopono is that everything is inside me. That doesn't mean in my body. It means it's a part of me. I am not separate from anything in the universe. And so whatever is going on is me. It's my responsibility. I take responsibility for it. So traditionally they say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and I'm grateful. And you can do that even when you're not the one, at least that you believe, you're not the one that actually caused a problem. It's just something going on. For instance, there's a lot of conflict in the world today. A lot of political conflict exists on the local level, the state level, nationally and internationally. And you could just say, I'm sorry. Now, when I say I'm sorry, it's not in the direction of it saying I feel guilty, right? It's not a bad feeling. What you're saying is, I'm apologizing, or I accept the situation. I accept the reality of the situation, because ultimately it is that perspective which brings your personal relief, brings me my personal relief. I just want to stay in the first person tonight. It brings my personal relief, but it also makes me connected with everything. Everything is inside me. So you take that responsibility. I accept that no, we're not doing tapping now, although you could. You could do the tapping. Jumped on that, didn't I? I love to do the tapping. It's so effective. But Ho'oponopono is very effective too. But you do that very inwardly, just sitting quietly and reflectively. I accept the reality of conflict in the world. Please forgive me. I love you. And that phrase there really means unconditionally. I love you unconditionally. I love everything. The you is not a separate from you. It's the situation. It's everybody involved in the situation. I love you, and I'm grateful to all of you. Boy, that was powerful. Anybody feel that? That was good. And so you just use that, and you just repeat it. And each time you repeat it, you tune in again to a deeper level of what is going on, what is causing the distress that you're experiencing about what's going on in the world. It could be something between you and someone else, or it could be just something that's out there that you don't feel that you're immediately a part of, but the situation is distressing or frightening, or just sad. Like that. And there's so much conflict out there in the world. It's very easy to do that. And so using that Ho'oponopono, 4 levels, 4 expressions, it's all it is. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, I am grateful. And that's all you have to do. Another technique that I use a lot is called focusing. And the title is a little misleading if you're a transcendental meditator, because it sounds like it means focusing on something. But what it means is putting attention, or allowing your attention to go where it is drawn, in or even outside your body. The focusing people don't usually think about outside the body, but those of us who do energy work realize that energy of a situation is often not in the physical space of the body. Um, things from um, things that are cosmically directed, the lessons to be learned kind of things. Those are often above or out front here, like that. Um, things that are familial tend to be up but behind. They're sort of arrayed, if you will, back here. And they can be quite a distance back if you have a physical sense of the distance. Things that are from past this lifetime or previous lifetimes, those things tend to be below us. Um, so that's just to give you a sense that, and you don't want to try to interpret where they come from, in terms of where the energy is. You just deal with the energy if you happen to experience it that way. So in focusing, we put our attention on where the just wherever the attention goes. We don't actually say, oh well, it's here. You go like, where do I feel something? I'm feeling it here in my upper chest. Okay, and it's like a pain, more like an ache. Okay, it's an ache, and it hurts, and there's a sense of constriction. And by the way, this is one of the things that leads to heart attacks if you don't deal with them, if you feel that kind of a thing in the heart. And not necessarily it'll happen immediately, but maybe 30 years down the road, if you've been carrying that since you were a little kid or from some past life, it may catch up to you that way if you don't deal with it. So the focusing is very valuable. And so they talk about identifying a felt sense. And so you just try out some words. What does that feel? And then I was doing that in there. Well, let's see. It's an ache, and but there's a constriction, a sense of tightness in that. I was doing this just the other day, and it was like it had constricted down to just about that big. It was very small, and it was very hard, and I had to work on that for quite some time. So I remember that now. That actually was in someone else, but as I said, what is out there is in me. So when I'm working, it's like, what do I feel? And I just felt something. And then, I was working with a client at the time. It was their feeling. And so, and that's part of the magic of what I do, is to be able to tune into what's going on in somebody that they don't even know necessarily, and work with it. But I digress. So you tune into this feeling, and you just characterize that and listen to see whether that's what you're saying in your mind is accurate. You get this sense of, oh yeah, that's the right word. It's not this word, it's that word, right? It's a pain, but it's more like an ache. Okay. Yeah, you get the feeling. Yeah, ache is the right word to describe that, however it goes. So you just tune into what you're getting as the feedback of that, and you just track that. And sometimes it'll have something to say to you. Sometimes you get the feeling, you may even get a sense of it having a physical form. It may appear as an animal or as a child, or some kind of monster, or it might just, you may get a sense it's just something, maybe it's hiding in a box or in a cave. It doesn't want to come out. It doesn't really want to communicate with you. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen a kid do that, where they'll go and they'll hide in a closet or something, and you'll say, to the kid, Johnny, will you come out of the closet? No, go away. I'm not here. And so, kids will do that. And sometimes you get the feeling that this part that's inside you, this felt sense within, is actually resisting, having a communication with you, talking with you, or just, being present with you. And usually what you do in that situation is say, okay, that's fine. You don't have to come out. I'll just wait here, and I'll wait here for as long as it takes until you're ready. And surprisingly, if you've dealt with children, you realize that it doesn't usually take all that long, just a matter of minutes usually. So, and sometimes even less than a minute. So just being there with a welcoming attitude, just you're friendly, and you're just there, and you're accepting, and it doesn't matter what that part feels or thinks. And you just deal with that part that's within you, in a way like you would deal with a child when you're being really supportive. You're just there. You're just present. And I've had the experience, and many other people have had too, that oftentimes you don't actually need to say anything. And that seems contrary to, because as adults, well, no, come on, let's talk about this, let's talk this thing out. And children, they often do not need to talk it out. They just need you to be there without any judgment. Not holding judgment is one of the great tricks in all of this. Not holding judgment. Because when we make a judgment, then we keep ourselves on that superficial level where that story is going on. And if we don't have a judgment, then we can go deeply into the thing because we're just then observing it. So we step out of the reactivity, the judging, the complaining, the blaming, the accusing, sometimes they say indicting of others. And that can be even a part within us when we're doing this focusing process. We step out of that. This is from nonviolent communication, this kind of language. And so we get out of the blaming and complaining and judging and indicting, and we just observe. We just observe, oh, there's this part in me and it's unhappy and it's all constricted and it just has been that way for so long. And so I'll just stay here with you. I'll just watch you and wait for you. And then usually the part starts to emerge. And then some things begin to shift inside. And just by being present with it and being very supportive and, as I said, non-judgmental, not making any criticism of it, then we just allow it to be there. And when we allow it to be there, the magic is it tends to shift. And the energy of that dissipates and merges with our total energy. And then we're okay. And we achieve that. And then we have that witnessing value. Oh, wow, I have been holding this pain for so long as I can remember. I don't even know where it came from, but I've been holding this pain. And now I don't feel that pain anymore. I feel relaxed. I feel good. I feel happy. I feel like I'm in touch with myself. I'm back in my power. I can take care of myself. And then we've achieved the great goal of just being and being spontaneous. The naturalness of the way life unfolds, the whole spontaneity of it. And so somebody used the term I read recently, unpredictable, and I put that in my write-up about this evening's webinar, that our own unpredictability, which really means our spontaneity and our creativity, our own unpredictability is really the key to unraveling the knotted energy, the tangled energy that we're holding inside of us so that we can be free to go about that, about finding the solution to that. So I'm going to stop here, and then we're going to pick up with our group clearing session. So I hope you all have enjoyed this. I'm going to tell you that next month we're going to kind of continue with this subject. We're going to be on June 12th next month. Again, it's always a Tuesday. It'll be Tuesday night, June 12th, 8 o'clock Central Time. And it's entitled Living with Both My Power and My Love. Living with Both My Power and My Love. Again, I'm using the my instead of your to make it self-referral. The basis of this talk presentation next month, and I'm going to explain that now because it's a nice lead into both what we're about to do here at the group clearing session, but a lead into next month is a continuation of this month, is that a lot of people feel that if they are powerful, they can't be loving because they see loving as being soft. And if you're soft, you can't be powerful. And so we're going to explain how you can be both and how love has power and power has love in it. So the two are really one thing or can be one thing, and that it's possible to deal with situations effectively and you might say in a powerful way, but not in an aggressive way, in a way that brings the love, the compassion, and the empathy that makes everything okay, that makes connection with other people. So that'll be our webinar next month. That'll be on June 12th at 8 o'clock Central Time. So I'll send out announcements, and I hope everybody will return so we can continue the conversation that we've been having now. So I'm going to sign off from this part of the webinar. Say goodbye.